So, Lisa, you know that friend you grew up with in the neighborhood, maybe college roommate, and haven't seen that person in years. But the moment you reconnect, it's like it ever was. You know, the comfort level is instant. You know that person, everybody has them in their life, right?
Absolutely. Well, as soon as you walked in, I felt like the third wheel over here. Like you guys were reconnecting.
That's right.
But introducing myself, Lisa Matthews, and obviously
Lisa.
you know.
Paulie
Well,
Pencilneck,
yeah,
as always
So
over here.
welcome back to the Valley. How
thank
does it
you.
feel to be back?
Oh, it's awesome. I'm so excited about being back here. We were here 4 years, my family and I, and the family's very excited to move back into town and reconnect with all our old friends.
See, I got used to it. See, once upon a time it was Billy Davis, but now it's Bill Davis.
Yeah,
do you want to clarify that as either or? What do you prefer
It's
these days?
either or. I've got 100
I
people
feel like
calling
there's
me
certain
both
people that
sides.
call you Billy,
That's
though.
right.
When do we get on that level, I guess?
Right now.
Right
We're
now.
on
Okay,
that level
Billy.
right now.
And how many kids do you have total?
I've got 5.
Okay, and what
they're
were their
everywhere.
ages when you guys were
The
here?
oldest is right now the oldest is first year law school, and the youngest
Wow.
is 9.
Wow. See, I have this visual from the Super Bowl, and it was the lobby of the team hotel in Tampa. And there you were, and you're a very young family at that point.
Yeah.
And now it's a decade later,
That's right.
and it might as well be a lifetime later, just based on the kids alone, right?
Yeah, they were all there. Sherry was pregnant with Billy, the youngest one. And then the twins were there, but they were infants, so they didn't get to go. And then the 2 older ones went, Monica and Brooke.
So now it includes what? Finding high schools, different. What is
All
it?
levels of school, elementary, middle, and high school I've got to get handled.
When
And
you-
relocated and move
Yeah.
them again.
Oh, my God.
But at
I
least you
got my hands
know.
full.
At least you know kind of where you want to live, right? And you have familiarity with that. Was there a place that you were just eager to get back to, and a food place or something that you missed about Arizona?
You know what? We love the Chandler area where we lived, and it blew my mind how much it's grown. You know, around the Intel plant. So we love that whole area, and it almost lost. Couldn't find my way around because of all the new builds.
So for all the assistant coaches who are newcomers to the AZ, do they ask you for directions? Do they ask you for recommendations?
They
and
do.
Are you the go-to default
I'm the
guy?
go-to guy.
Yeah, that's good.
Of the new guys.
New guys,
There's
yeah.
a couple guys who have been here for
What about you just walking around here and just seeing how far the facility has come and obviously, I mean, I'm not sure if you've been out to the stadium, but just seeing how different it is now from where it was.
Yeah, I was very impressed from the weight room being out there. That was a patio when I was here, so the weight room was huge, and then the bubble is a godsend because that was the biggest thing. Not only our staff with Wiz and Hunt, but the staffs before. That heat's no joke, and you've got to escape it. And now we have the ability to escape it. So that was an outstanding addition that really people understand it. The summers here are like winters up north, or the snow.
Right.
You've got to get out of the elements at some point to get the work done.
Yeah, it's not just the players that appreciate the practice bubble. It's the coaching staff,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My goodness.
We appreciate it too, but we're only out there for about 15 minutes. So.
In fact, if memory serves, when you first showed up 2007, there was a switch from the 4-3 to the 3-4. So it's almost full circle all over again, right? Just in
Yes.
some of the dynamics and challenges and what you're implementing right now, football-wise as well.
Yeah, the thing is, this team just went through the flip of that. So you really were a top defense in a 3-4 alignment. And it's only base downs, and really it's kind of the NFL is moving away from that being such a big deal. It's not that big a deal anymore because 40% of the downs you're in your base, first and second. And then there's so much multiple wide receiver sets coming at you, you go to your nickel, which is all 4 down. So that whole concept is it used to be a bigger deal than it is now. And right now you can see that this whole team was built around a 3-4. You switched to a 4-3, had a little lag last year. You know, you had some growing pains, and now we're going back to the attacking 3-4 system that you had the last couple of years, and we're highly successful with this group of talent.
Just giving some perspective to fans out there, how much does switching back to 3-4 help guys like Chandler Jones? What excites you about him standing back up in a 30 front?
One of the things that 34 does for you, for Chandler and the outside backers, is you're not always matched up on an offensive tackle. When you go 4 down linemen, the tackles block the ends. When you do a 3-4, now the tight end or back has to pick up one of the 2 outside backers if you rush them both. So now Chandler will have more opportunities on tight ends and backs as opposed to the 4-3 where he's almost entirely on tackles.
And you go back with Vance Joseph when you were the D coordinator with the Niners, and he was your DB's coach, correct?
I remember interviewing him like it was yesterday. We were in San Fran looking for an assistant DB coach, and a friend of mine, Tim Beckman out of Bowling Green, recommended Vance. So we brought him in and interviewed. He just knocked it out. You could tell he was special. He'd played in the league, so he had that swagger about him at the NFL. You know he could handle the players. And the rest is history. Even when we were done at San Francisco, I introduced him to Wade Phillips in Houston, who was looking for a DB coach. And then he attached to Wade and has been with Wade for a while, and that's a very similar system to what we're installing here.
Was it kind of a no-brainer for you then when you got the call, given your history with Vance Joseph and the Cardinals, to come here?
Yeah, I was very excited about it. And talking with Steve Keim and kind of introduced Steve and Vance, let them get to know each other a little bit because I'd know them both well. They didn't know each other at the time.
So the players who don't know Vance Joseph, what are they getting in a defensive coordinator?
Oh, they're getting a very intelligent, strong, confident man. And these guys need that confident man to lead them. Not afraid to listen to the players, which I think is a mistake a lot of coaches make when they move up the ladder in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with these vets that have had all this experience and have kind of perfected their craft to learn from them as a coach. I'm on my 25th year, and I listen as hard as I talk, just so I can learn and grow my way of teaching and my base knowledge of the game. Because all these, you don't think Larry Fitzgerald has a couple secrets that he could share with you? I mean, those guys can help you in a lot of ways. And what you get in Vance Joseph is he's very confident in his own skin. So he can handle the hard players. He can grow a new player, wrap his arm around them, where he can get after someone that needs getting after.
He describes this defense being one that will be attacking, starting with the 2 pass rushers, the cover corners. How much does this personnel that's here already just help? Is it going to flourish that?
It was this personnel is built for that, and that's why the success was here the last couple of years defensively. So you're just rushing more guys, like rushing a Hassan Reddick more than you drop him will help if we choose to do that from wherever we align him. And then Chandler will be dropping again. He'll be rushing on lesser blockers and tight ends and backs, and he may have to drop a little bit. That's the downfall to a 3-4. In order to keep everybody honest, you've got to drop those rushers a couple times.
Vance Joseph told us on the Big Red Rage that give me the 2 cover corners, give me the 2 edge rushers, I'll scheme it up from there. So Robert Alford was signed. Doesn't take a genius to sort of extrapolate to the draft that maybe the Cardinals take a pass rusher number 1. We'll get into your personal connection with a certain somebody.
You might know a good one.
Yeah, it's my vote. I'll take it right now. I can turn the card in right now.
What would that do for this defense if you got that bookend? Vance Joseph just experienced it in Denver, didn't he, with Chubb?
Those 2 were phenomenal. Those are probably the 2. I have to remind Vance a couple times. I say, man, these guys couldn't start for me in Denver. Talking about people we're looking at. I'm like, there's very few that could beat those 2 out you had.
Right.
You had 2 of the best in the NFL. So you're kind of looking through some weird lens here. But if you can get both outside, you now they don't have a protection move. If they block either way to slide toward Chandler or slide toward the other end, they now leave one of the 2 on the back or tight end, which is a mismatch. If you keep both tackles fanning and out, then you're susceptible to all the A-gap blitzes. So you put the offensive line and the protections in a real bind when you have 2 outside rushers.
Now you have firsthand experience with a guy named Nick Bosa, obviously. Not saying anything here, but just what would he bring to an NFL organization? What does he have that stands out to you, where you said you're going to put that card in if you had the capabilities to do so?
Nick was raised, the family of the Bosas, from the dad, John, who was a first-round pick. His mom's brother is Kumro, and he was a first-round pick.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then Joey and Nick, they've been pass rushing and talking D-line and working D-line since they were in. I mean, that's all they've done. They talk about the NFL. They know it. They know the draft. They know all of it. So he's just got a whole upbringing of NFL pass rushing. It's what they do. That's what the Bosas do and what they work on.
What about as a person?
They do it before dinner, they eat dinner, and then they do it after dinner.
Well, and you want that love of the game, obviously.
Yeah, and he has it. He was a lot of people don't know this about Nick, but he was heartbroken when he was We were all. But he really wanted to come back, and he really wanted to try to make it back from the injury. But
So that wasn't a business decision.
Nick wanted to come back, and I think his father knew better. And I think they all talked about it as a family and made a family decision, but you can see why they made it. Nobody in the building held anything against him. But we know Nick and his love of the game, and he loves his teammates more than being the first pick or even going into this process being re-injured if that would have happened. Nick would have done it. That's how much he loves the game. That's how good of a teammate he is. But they made a family decision, and he didn't. He didn't come back, and we were good. We won the Big Ten, and ended well.
All good there.
And for those who don't know, Bill Davis was the linebackers coach under Urban Meyer the last 2 years at Ohio State. So you went against Dwayne Haskins as well. How about a little thumbnail on that guy?
I am one of the biggest Dwayne Haskins fans out there. I know for a fact that he will be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. I watched him.
How so?
I watched him every day, and I watched him throw accurate, on-time balls that were very catchable. He can make all the throws. Every day in practice, you'd see a wild throw, and it had to be Dwayne. You go back, and there's Dwayne. He's an NFL quarterback in that he's a tall pocket passer. College is full of the running quarterback that can do it all, but when you get to the NFL, you can't make your living as a quarterback with your legs running. You cannot. You can for a year. You can for a year and a half.
Just too
Sooner
risky.
or later, you're going to break.
Yeah.
These guys are too big and too fast. So you stay back in the pocket, and that's where it starts in the NFL. Now, is it good to have the ability to use your legs to get out? Absolutely, but you've got to be a pocket passer, and that's what Dwayne is. He's tall, he's long, he's got a great mind. The offensive system we ran was a pro-style system. So now he's only played 1 year, so Dwayne might need a year or two before he falls into it, but you will see him be a franchise quarterback.
That's enough for the Raiders to trade up and give a massive package to the Cardinals at number one. That's what I say.
You never know. We're calling shots today. I like it.
That's right.
You having just an immense amount of experience, 24 years coaching, most of it in the NFL, but recently coming from the college game, what do you feel like you can take from that experience into the NFL now? Like something that you learned perhaps?
Well, the part of the offensive game that's leaking into the NFL is the RPO. And that's really what you spend most of your time with is the RPO and the quarterback run game. Mm-hmm. Biggest difference. Now, I don't know why for the life of me the field markings aren't the same because that's a big difference in college in the NFL too, and I don't know why we just don't at some point put those together. But you have the larger wide field and you have the quarterback run game. And defensively, that is very difficult from a number standpoint when the quarterback's constantly running it. Right. The NFL can't sustain it because once you pay your quarterback the lion's share of your salary cap, you can't put him in harm's way that many times because he's going to break because they're too big. So it's hard to transfer. I think I'll evaluate college players a lot better now. I thought I knew what I was looking at. I didn't realize what they were being told all the time and how it relates to the quarterback run game. So instincts and keys and reads and those things are a little bit different than I thought they were. Okay. But I think I think they're really two different games. It's a passing game in one in the NFL, and it's really a quarterback run game in college.
It's interesting because Cliff Kingsbury on the Kingsbury Chronicle podcast last week, we asked him about going to the combine and just his competitive advantage maybe against some other NFL head coaches in that he's coming from the college game, and he said, "Yeah, I think I have a pretty good handle on what makes some of these college players tick and their train of thought." Do you feel like you have that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got a whole nother perspective. It was a great experience. One of the biggest things is how young they are. From when you spend your whole life in the NFL, you're dealing with men,
right? And
they've got wives and kids, and then you go and coach college, and these guys are just out of high school, and really at Ohio State, they don't make it past their junior year, so they're legitimate freshman, sophomore, junior, and very rarely do they make it to their senior year. So the youth and the immaturity, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, it's just you just got out of high school, you're in your early college, you learn about college, and all of a sudden we dump you into the NFL with all this money and it's grown man time. And I just didn't realize how ill-equipped some of them are. And they come from smaller schools or bigger schools. At Ohio State, they are mature and ready because the programs that Urban put in place and that we used to grow them as men help them in the NFL, but not all schools do that. And I really was taken back at sometimes they really are still under mom and dad or mom or grandma. And when they come here, you never had that conversation. It was always about man to man, and it was an eye-opening experience in a positive way.
Do you feel like that'll make you a better coach with some of the younger guys coming in?
Absolutely.
Knowing where they come from.
Yeah, I'll spend more time teaching them things off the field. I mean, it's silly stuff, but it's apartment leases, it's buying or renting a car, it's opening bank accounts.
I want that class.
Yeah, really. I mean, really, it's paying taxes.
It's true, yeah.
It's called Adulting 101.
Yeah,
and you got to learn it at some point, and then that makes them a better player, I presume, because they're more focused. They don't have those off-field concerns, perhaps. How about when you go to the combine? Because you're leaving tomorrow. Do you have a go-to question? Do you feel like, I mean, is there something, without getting into classified information, what do you want to know from some of these players?
Well, first of all, I know how rehearsed everything is. And I even coached the guys up that were leaving me of what was coming their way and how to answer questions. So you know that. But there are certain questions that you really can't, I mean, that are the truth. I always ask them when things go bad in your life and it gets really hard and you hit that spot where it's either really hard on the field or something happened off the field, who do you call? Who do you pick up the phone? Who do you turn to? Who's your go-to person? And that tells me a little bit about not only them, but also if now they've come in my fold and under my wing, who do I reach out to when I know they're going through that hard time? Because people don't understand the amount of stress on these guys. They say, oh, you're a first-round pick, a second-round pick. Oh, you got millions of dollars. You're a big, good-looking man. They're still human beings, and they still have the anxieties and all those things. And when you're not playing well early on, it's hard to play well in the NFL. It's competitive.
When the expectations are sky high, right?
And they're human beings, and they're not all mentally tough. You know, they all have different backgrounds. So being able to help them through all those things, that's what I try to unwind. There's a lot of questions. You know, they're just canned answers. And a lot of what I do is talk football.
Gotcha.
Because if they can show me they can draw football, talk football, explain what they're doing, then I also am seeing a passion. There's a lot of them that can't even explain it. And if they can't talk it and they don't really know what they're doing, they're just kind of doing it, I don't know how much passion's there for the game or love of the game. But at the end of the day, if they're that talented, you pick them and you coach them.
Right.
Do you feel like you're an asset because you know the depths of this organization? I know that Bidwell sits y'all down and goes through the history of the Cardinals. You know that. You can ace that test.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're an asset to some of the other staff?
I do, and I've also been with 12 different NFL teams. Wow. And Michael Bidwell and the way he runs his organization is one of the best, if not the best. And I say that sincerely from being a lot of behind the scenes of a lot of teams. He is honest. He's, it's very clear in his vision. And those are things you need from a leader. You know, sit me down, tell me how you see my job and my role, and he was adamant the other day about how he wants all of us in the community and adding to the area and just on all levels. He's very thorough in what he asks of you, and he's very giving. I mean, there's very few things that you ask for around here if he can get it. And if this is what you believe is going to win and help us win, that's what he's all about, and he doesn't say no. You know, if he can't do it, he can't do it, but if he can, it's done.
We have a good question coming in from Twitter talking about the run D. This is from Scott Miller. He wants to know, how will you stop the run this year?
Well, it was a little bit of an issue last year, and one of the things that the defense that we're about to employ, it really does focus on stopping the run and getting after the pass rusher. Vance has really never had a problem in his defenses that he's coordinated to give up the run, and some of it is it's just gap integrity and simplicity. We're bringing a very simple system in. It's very teachable and learnable, and when a player can really know his job and really feel very confident he can do it, they fit the gaps better. You're there just to count quicker. So that arm tackle that you missed last year because you were just a hair late, hopefully now you're there quicker, and that means now it's a body tackle, and it helps the run game.
When you're watching film from the 2018 season, is it easy to spot what went wrong?
No, but you see signs of defenses that struggle, and really it was communicating before when they're snapping the ball and you're still talking to each other. As a coordinator, I've had defenses where it's happened, and you say, okay, this is an indicator of a deeper problem. We've got to simplify. We've got to get this to where these guys are not turning at each other and looking when this guy's about to come hit me. So there's some signs.
And as you go to the combine, how often are you in the GM's ear? You know, hey, I like this guy, I like that guy.
Hey, he told us he has his card ready.
That's right.
That's right. I can turn in.
He takes feedback from the assistant coaches, but he also tasks you with trying to find the gems in the 6th and 7th round, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Steve makes it sound so complicated, but I can turn that card in right now.
That's right. Okay.
But he is right now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Anyone can. Now go find the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Sure.
And that's one of the things it's again, I come from my father ran the drafts for the Cleveland Browns back in the 80s. So the drive and the fumble, Dad put all those teams together. He was the man turning in and making the decision who we were drafting. And Steve Keim got to know him, pretty well over the last couple of years. And we'd always sit around and talk personnel and draft. And, Steve and my father would sit down. And it's very interesting to see all the different ways that the NFL teams look at the draft and go about it. And one of the things that impresses me is Steve is so thorough with getting all the work completely done. And, I mean, all the arguments, all the discussions are completely aired out between now and draft day. When draft day comes, it's pretty fluid, and it's really non-stressful because he's got all the discussions out. You're not running up to Steve on draft day and say, wait a minute, there's one guy. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
No, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
And it makes for a real efficient, calm, intelligent draft, and he's been one of the best drafters out there.
So you never wanted to be a GM?
I've thought about it. I really have. I mean, I early on in my career, I could have gone on scouting or coaching, and I always had the passion for coaching. But I've had a love of personnel my whole life because I sat and watched my dad draft teams for years in high school.
You're a two-headed monster. He can coach and he can draft.
There you go.
There you go.
You just need your own mock draft. That's the only thing missing now, Bill. Just get your own
Don't
mock
give
draft.
us
Come on, you
ideas.
need to tweet out your own mock draft. I mean, everybody's got one now.
The one thing about the mock drafts, and I've even talked with Mike Mayock over the years, the difference is they're mock drafting for all defenses, all offenses in the whole league. That's a whole different animal than what the Arizona Cardinals need in our draft room. Yeah. So you go mock draft, you really can't put the two together. And it's not a knock on the mock drafters. They're trying to fit it for the league, but every team has got their own needs and systems. And so the mock drafts, you don't look at very hard.
Steve Keim has said there's been occasions after the draft he'll finally look at some of the mock drafts and he'll just get a good laugh. He'll just roar back and say, "Oh, that's pretty hilarious." So look at some of these,
The ones that come out in January. I'm like, skip, next.
Exactly. Bill, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
All the best in Indy.
Thank you.
Okay. It's the Coaches Chronicle podcast. Bill Davis, this week's guest, and all the best at the Combine. We'll see you next week with Coach Cliff. Kicking with Cliff next week. Absolutely. That'll be solid, especially after all the quarterback workouts coming this weekend. And we'll hear first from the head coach
Next to come.
next Tuesday. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone.